I go over a lot of declassified government documents that deal with unethical human experimentation, and almost all of those took place in the 60s and 70s. But I found this article today about government testing in the 80s and 90s on children. Now, obviously, this is not a new article. It came out 20 years ago, but I was in college when this came out, and I was definitely not paying attention to this topic. Government funded researchers tested AIDS drugs on hundreds of kids in the foster system. Foster care agencies sought out these treatments for HIV infected children that were not yet available to the public. And it sounds great. They're receiving care from world class researchers at the government's expense. Now, the government provides special protection for child wards, basically independent advocates that are looking out for the child's best interest. These people would be separate from the foster care system. However, researchers and foster agencies claim that the kids were not given these advocates, even though the institutions promised to do so to gain access to these children. It's believed that none of the 200 foster kids in the AIDS studies had independent monitors, even though there were documents saying that they would have an advocate. And the same story goes for children in New York City. Now, I'm sure some people were like, what's the big deal? These kids were getting experimental medicine that probably could help them. The problem was that there were horrific side effects to these medications. And these children basically had no one looking out for them and sticking up for them. Children who are in a very vulnerable situation. Also think about at the time who was running these tests and trials of these medications. This story came out because of a House committee meeting on the protections for foster children enrolled in clinical trials. And again, I am not saying that these children should not have been able to participate in these studies. But if they are not giving an advocate or anyone to look out for them, they are just lab rats. Basically, state-owned lab rats. Now, it does look like the federal regulations for foster children in clinical trials has been beefed up, but I sure hope there is a system of checks and balances. I just don't want to hear 20 years down the road that children in foster care without an advocate were doing clinical trials for, I don't know, a certain injection for a 2020 illness. What are your thoughts?